When did your gut feeling of something's not right here save you? Worked as a shot girl at a pub. One night I rejected someone who attempted to get my number. Not unusual, and he didn't seem that bothered. The whole exchange wasn't strange to me. In the early hours after the bar closed, I went to leave through the back door into the car park like usual when I saw the sensor light outside was on. Someone was stood just outside the door. I felt uneasy, so went out the front and asked one of the bouncers to walk me round the back to my car. As we rounded the corner, we spotted this guy lurking outside the door holding his belt like a makeshift garrote. When he saw us, he started screaming that I was a and I should die. He scampered off into the road and never came back. I woke up at 3 a.m. once sitting upright in bed. I felt on alert and my heart raced when I saw that my cat was on alert too, wide awake by my feet with his ears perked up. But I didn't see or hear anything weird. Something didn't feel right and I couldn't relax. So I got up and went to the kitchen. Turned on some lights and ate food even though I wasn't that hungry. Eventually went back to bed. We discovered the next morning that someone had stopped while in the process of using some kind of tool to silently cut a big hole in the glass window in the living room. They were trying to break in. Right next to the bedroom. I think the lights I turned on scared them away. Edited to add that we had 3 long years of issues with our neighbors. They repeatedly came into our property and were pissed that we put up a 9-foot fence to keep them out. This attempted break-in happened right after the fence went up and 2 days before they all moved out. Glad those pieces of shit are long gone. Went to a college party and one of the guys made me feel very uncomfortable. He didn't ever do anything to me, but something seemed off. I kept dumping my shots because getting smashed seemed like a bad idea. I ended up taking a friend and leaving while he told us that we were being lame by not having more of the grey goose. He raped another girl at the party that night. I'm a firefighter. We got called out to a tree fire started by fallen power lines. We pull up in the truck and I'm trusting that my driver and crew leader are doing their job and have good situational awareness. We get out of the truck and we've parked next to a set of power lines, not fallen. It's a very windy night and I can see the lines swinging, so I voice my concerns to my crew leader who says it'll be fine. We get out, hose out, risk of the tree fire catching onto a house outweighing potential risk of arcing plus the line disconnected when it fell, and I'm on the branch ready to start putting it out with 2 others near me when I get a chill. I look up, see the lines swinging violently and yell, "Everyone fricking move." As the 3 of us sprint and dive out of the way, we hear a thwip and crack, and sure enough the line we were under came loose and stayed connected to the power pole. If I hadn't got that chill, chances are we would have had 3 fried fireys. Damn, you would have become a freed fighter. Not me, but when my mum was a teenager on 18th of November 1987, she was going to London to visit a friend. It was around 7:20 p.m. and she decided she was going to take a taxi instead of going by tube because it didn't feel right. King's Cross Tube Station. 10 minutes later the whole station caught on fire and 30 out of the 40 people died. If she had decided to take the tube, she would likely have died. My daughter was a year and a half at the time. She had a cold, but bedtime went off without a hitch. I woke up in the middle of the night that night, really uncomfortable and anxious. Something was off and I couldn't put my finger on it. I got up, had a midnight snack, tried to calm my nerves. I decided to check on my kids, who shared a room, before trying to go back to sleep. I get in there and immediately I hear a light sound coming from her crib, wheezing. It was so quiet, there was no way to hear it outside of the room. I got her up and saw that her breathing was fast and labored. I took her to the hospital, where she ended up with an overnight stay, oxygen, and nebulizer treatments because her oxygen had dipped. She was diagnosed with reactive airway disease due to the cold, which triggered the asthma attack. Posted this before, took my 2 babies to an in-home daycare run by a lovely woman. About 9 days in, the woman's teenage son was home when I picked up my kids. He gave me a super creepy vibe. pulled the kids from the daycare and placed them elsewhere. Maybe 10 years later that kid murdered 2 people then killed his mom. Was at a party in a rough neighborhood. I made a lot of poor choices as a teen. I'm vaguely aware of an argument going on somewhere else in the house. I couldn't put a finger on it, but tension was rising. I decided it was time to go. I grabbed my friends and left. Not 10 minutes after we left, someone pulled a gun and fired a few rounds. Some random girl was hit, non-fatally. Anyway, someone stole someone else's coke. So the guy left, came back with a gun, threatened some people, then lost control of the situation and shot some poor girl. Edit, since apparently there's some confusion. The coke in question was cocaine. This would have never happened had it been a Pepsi. Well, I was walking home. Wasn't late and I'm from a pretty safe area, but it was that time of year when it starts to get dark really early, so felt kind of ominous. Anyway, I pass this guy in a red sweater and red tracksuit bottoms and he looks at me funny. Maybe he's high, maybe he's drunk, either way something not quite right about him. I keep going. Look behind me, he's still there. Cross the road. He crosses with me. As soon as I turn a corner I sprint to my apartment complex and run into the coded gate and wait. He rocks up a minute later and stares at me through the gate. He just stares at me for a good 10 or so seconds, then runs back the way he came. Shivers. The staring. Saying nothing. Frick man. Sounds like one creepy Santa. I work in a mental health hospital. There's a set of communal stairs, a lift and some locked staff stairs. I was working on the top floor that night and my gut told me to use the locked stairs. More of an inconvenience than the lift. Went through the last door and found the patient who lived closest to that door hanging in their room. They were only there about 1 to 2 minutes, so I managed to call for help and get them down. I read this 4 times before I realized you meant hanging with a noose. I thought you meant just chilling in his room. Well, he was doing that too. Was at a farmer's market in downtown Chico, California with my wife. I'm tall and white and my wife is Asian and vertically challenged, and over the crowd I saw 2 very rough-looking gentlemen, one really tall and the other short with a swastika tattooed on his forehead like Charles Manson. Little tattooed man and I made eye contact from maybe 50 away and he gestured to his friend and then he pointed at me. I alerted my wife and told her that we were leaving immediately. She thought I was majorly overreacting and wanted to continue shopping, but I overruled her and we left. Maybe 6 months later we were watching America's Most Wanted and guess who showed up for double murder over meth in Oroville, California ? My 2 buddies. We still talk about that from time to time and it still gives me goosebumps 15 years later. Do you think they were broing out over seeing a really tall white guy? Bruh, Hitler would have loved that guy. Look how tall he is, what a specimen.
I experienced something kinda similar last year as well. My husband and I were hiking in Western Washington on a trail we've done a handful of times. We start up the trail and are about a half mile in when I start to get a weird feeling. A few feet more and I turn to my husband and tell him that I think we should turn around. I had no reason other than I had a bad gut feeling and I could feel the hairs on my body standing. As expressed this to him, he looked kinda surprised and he said he was about to tell me the same thing. Normally I'm the one who can feel a little spooked on a trail, but in the years we've been hiking together this was the first time he's ever felt off. Because of this we listened to our gut feelings and headed back to the car. As we did we noticed a deer carcass far off to the side that we must have missed on the way up. Although we never saw anything, I'm convinced we were being watched. The amount of relief when we got to the car was overwhelming.